Yeah, I got both. What about it? I'm a very tired girl who also has a tummy ache. And I'm not a tummy ache girl. So I don't know if I'm getting the flu or what. But ginger ale is cheaper than American healthcare, so let's rock and roll. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Gia. I'm a 25-year-old lady who lives in my mom's basement. And today I'm going to cover my very short wrap up for the month of December. But I still wanted to do a video and talk about the books that I read in December, as well as the books that I'm planning to read in January, because I don't typically do TBR content just because I tend to be a bit of a mood reader. The first book I read in December was Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove by Roddy Matrova. I rated it officially 4.25 stars. It was a really great ride. I had a lot of fun with it. It tells the story of a young girl who's about 17 who is the bodyguard of the crown prince and the royal family, but she is in a soul bond with the queen from a young age because the queen saved her from an illness that killed her family. As a result, she is kind of adopted into this royal family. So when it is time for the crown prince and his cousin to be sent to a spiritual guru in the forest, where all of the leaders of the nearby kingdoms send their crown princes and such to go to learn basic lessons about diplomacy and meditation, how to be a good person, morality lessons and such, spirituality. They send the crown prince and his cousin and Katya, the main character, to this place, and it is here that she develops a forbidden romance with the son of the guru in question. This book was based on Indian folklore and mythology, and it had a lot of Hindi mixed in. There was a glossary at the end of the books that I could flip to. I went down so many Wikipedia rabbit holes learning about Indian mythology and folklore because I just find it so interesting. I was definitely a Greek mythology girly when I was younger, and as somebody who went to school for anthropology and archaeology, I am fascinated by history. Being given a chance to read a fantasy that was rooted in a mythology I was unfamiliar with really gave me the opportunity to learn something that I didn't know before. The story itself tells the tale of a girl who is on a journey of self-discovery and then also on a journey of exacting revenge and justice, and trying to come to terms with them both at the same time, as well as engaging and distancing herself from the object of her desires, who is the son of the Archriah. I found the story very evocative and vivid, and Katya was a very compelling character to follow. I enjoyed her a lot. In the beginning, I was a little tired of her teenage antics, but I'm also almost 26 years old, so I think that it is natural for me to find teenage characters just a little bit grating sometimes. Overall, despite being in the 4-star range and not a 5-star, it was probably one of the best books that I read all of last year. After I finished Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove, I wanted to do a 12 Christmas romances video where I put up a video every day, 12 days up until Christmas, to kind of get me into the mood because I wasn't feeling particularly festive this year. As you can see, I don't have anything like decorating my stream background or anything, so I wasn't feeling very festive. We decorated our house really late, and I had been working a lot, and I just wasn't feeling in the Christmas mood, so I thought maybe if I read some Christmas romances that might help. I am notoriously a contemporary romance hater just because I think that they're boring. Sorry. I had lined up these books to be read shortest to longest because I thought that if I accomplished a lot in a short period of time, I could churn out a couple of videos very quickly and get them scheduled for upload so that I could spend more time with the longer reads. In the beginning, this worked for me, and then I realized that there was no earthly way I was going to read like as many books as I had planned in the amount of time that I had to do it. And if I wanted to do something like that, I should have been doing it for a couple of weeks up until Christmas. So just because of time constraints, I changed the idea to do it in a I read as many Christmas romances as I can kind of thing, make it a bit more chaotic. So then I just changed it completely and just read what I wanted. But before I decided to do that, when I was still doing the 12 Days of Christmas, the first thing I read was his Fake Holiday Curves for Christmas 22 by Anne Lang. I read this in like an hour and a half. It was a pretty unoffensive plus-size romance about a girl named Holly who needed somewhere to stay for the holidays, and she runs into a Santa Claus-esque figure in a coffee shop who offers her a place to stay in return for going on a a fake date with one of her tenants, who is the son of a CEO who owns a publishing company. And when they go on this date, sparks fly and they end up actually liking each other for real. There was I don't want to say prophecy or meme, but it was like a thing with his family that every guy on his dad's side of the family knew the person that they were going to marry on first meeting, at first sight. So the love interest Wes thought that this had skipped him up until he met our girl Holly, and it's kind of insta lust, insta lovey. And the deception is that Wes did not know that Holly was receiving a free place to stay for the holidays in return for going on a date with him. But I personally thought that was generated conflict, because if I was told, hey, this person is going on a date with you and I set them up with you and in return they're getting this, I would not be mad because of what Holly was receiving. Because in giving him an inch, he took a mile in assuming that Holly was this terrible person who was not only using him to have a roof over her head, but was using him for sex. He essentially accused her of being a gold digger, which was not the case. So they made up very quickly. It was fine. It was whatever. And when I say that it was an unoffensive plus size romance, I say that our girl being plus size changed nothing about the story, except that she was on occasion fetishized for having larger breasts. Other than that, there was very little mention or fetishization of her body, whereas in other plus size romances, that is not the case, where a woman being plus size is often fetishized. So I didn't find it to be weird or creepy. It didn't give me the ick as a plus size woman myself. So there was that, but then also I felt like it didn't add anything to the story, because if you're going to write something and make an entire series, this is called Curves for Christmas 22. There's been 21 entries before this. If you're going to make entries into a series that on purpose feature a plus size heroine because you're trying to do something different in a romance writing industry that prioritizes and tends to highlight thinner figures, I feel like you need to be doing something with that protagonist in order for it to mean something. I feel that, and then at the same time, it also shouldn't matter. So it's like the whole thing of, you should be saying something more with your content by making your character this way and making her a positive example, but then also body type shouldn't matter. It's like the cross between body positivity and body neutrality. So I understand both ends. I gave it 3 Christmas trees out of 5. It could have been a lot worse. However, the highlight of my December was Love Light Farms by BK Borison, which I am screaming because the author liked my review on Instagram, and I want to cry. Like, that made my day when I saw it. But Love Light Farms just made me feel all warm and tingly inside, and it really like jingled my bells and made me feel holly and jolly. Like, it was the book that made me feel thankful for Christmas, which, again, for those who don't know, my grandmother died 5 days before Christmas, so I was not feeling particularly holly and jolly this Christmas. But Love Light Farms made me feel a positive emotion in the midst of my grief and sadness. Like, the book prior didn't feel very Christmassy at all. This book felt Christmassy. I mean, it took place on a Christmas tree farm. I already did a video on Love Light Farms, but it really warmed my Grinch heart. It was about our girl Stella, who is in love with her best friend Luca, and she enters herself into an Instagram contest to get featured on a very famous travel blogger's Instagram, and she lies on her application by saying that she bought the farm with her boyfriend in order to make the ordeal a bit more romantic. Issue being, she doesn't have a boyfriend, so she has to have a fake one for the visit. So she enlists the help of her best friend Luca, who's been her best friend for 10 years. And over the course of this fake relationship, they realize that they, in fact, do have real feelings for each other and do end up together in the end. In the midst of all of this, Stella is being sabotaged at her farm, where things are being destroyed, things being stolen, doors being left open, and things getting wet from a storm and that kind of thing. So there's a mystery and a love story going on at the same time, all taking place during Christmas, and it just felt Christmassy. The only thing it was missing, to be completely honest with you, is like that stereotypical, like, oh no, we're snowed in and there's only one bed. Like, that's the only thing that this was missing that could have made it feel any more like snowflakes and hot chocolate, like Christmassy. So I gave it 5 stars. I'm going to continue reading the series. It was a great audio listening experience as well. I listened to the rest of it on my flight home. So it was a really, really good time. And it really warmed my heart during a very difficult holiday season for me. That was the shortest reading wrap up of my life. So here is a very quick but very ambitious January TBR. First, we got Ninth House and Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I am about a quarter of the way through Hellbent right now. I'm listening to it on Audible. I tried to read it a year ago, so I still have it logged in my Goodreads, and I made it to about the point where I am right now, and I'm still really enjoying it. I'm having a good time. The reason why I paused it is because I was just not in a good mental headspace to be reading, and I had checked out books from the library, and then they sat in my house for 9 months, and one of them was Ninth House. So I returned the books and decided I would get around to it when I was feeling more mentally healthy, and I did, and I am enjoying it much more this second time around. The third book is A Court of Wings and Ruin. I'm going to finally finish this book this month. Holy shit, I am about 30% into ACOWAR right now. I'm also enjoying it, but I had to put it on pause. It's the longest book on this list right now. This book is over 700 pages. Like, girl, I'm fighting for my life. Please, I'm begging you. And I know that A Court of Silver Flames is even longer, so I'm just like, Sarah. Yeah, please. I'm fighting. I'm fighting for my life here. So Ninth House and Hellbent are going to be listened to via Audible. A Court of Wings and Ruin I am reading via Kindle. I bought it. One of the only books I bought in 2022. Then the rest are going to be physical books. So Monsters Born and Made. This was on my anticipated for fall 2022 reads. I've had it checked out from the library for way too long, so I am going to actually crack this book open, and it is a shorter read, thank God, so I'm going to get around to it so I can return it and pay my late fees. So then we have Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossiner. I started reading this while I was in Florida. I am not going to lie, I am struggling with this book. It is about two sisters who live with their parents in a forest on the border of, I believe, Ukraine and Moldova. So it is set in Eastern Europe on the outskirts of a Jewish village. Their mother, I believe, is a Catholic convert, so they treat her like an outsider. This book is rooted in Eastern European and Jewish mythology, and it turns out that the mother and father are both, I don't want to say shapeshifters, but they are humans that could turn into animals and vice versa, and the animal that they turn into is different. So the father turns into a bear and the mother turns into a swan, and one of the daughters turns into a bear and the other turns into a swan. So in a situation where the daughters are left alone, there's a conflict between the older sister, who is wanting to be the devout child who wants to be everything her parents want her to be and wants to follow everything that her father wants to a T when it comes to their Jewish faith, but her younger sister is a bit more flighty. She's the swan. She wants to go on and have adventures. This book also calls inspiration from The Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti. It was a poem that was published in 1859 about two sisters who encountered a group of goblins by the river who would sell them fruit, and when you ate the fruit, it put you under a spell of some sort. So the younger sister is enchanted by these goblins and wants to eat more of the fruit, to the point where she doesn't eat anything else, and she is entirely under the control and influence of the goblins. Upon realizing that her younger sister is going to die because she is wasting away and she's aging and becoming weak because she won't eat anything but this magical fruit, the older sister attempts to go get it from the goblins. But when the goblins try to give her the fruit, she says no and they attack her. She escapes and ends up saving her sister, and the two live to tell their children the tale. Sisters of the Winter Wood is taking that poem and then mixing it into a story concerning Eastern European and Jewish mythology. One of the sisters speaks in traditional narrative prose and the other speaks in poetry. So the reading experience is quite fast because one of the sisters, literally, that's what her pages look like. What is difficult for me to get through is I'm encountering the same thing I did with Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove, where in the beginning I struggled because of how much Hindi was in the book, and I had to constantly go back and translate it from the glossary, except in this book it is all Hebrew. So I am having the same problem but with a different book. So it is a good book. It is just, for me, it is slow moving to start, and in the back of my mind I am seeking that like high octane dopamine from a different type of vibe, from a different type of vibe from a book, is what I'm saying. Is like I'm craving something different. So I am trying not to DNF this book because I think it is a very good book, and I think that it has a lot of good narrative themes weaved into it. However, I myself am currently struggling because of everything that I am dealing with, that I don't want to sit down and have like a introspective reading experience. I want like something to distract me, and this is not distracting me. And then of course Blood Promise, Spirit Bound, and Last Sacrifice, which are books 4, 5, and 6 from Vampire Academy, because I am doing part 2 of my Revisiting YA series for Vampire Academy this month. It is supposed to come out, I think, at the end of the month, but I might have to rework that just because of all the things I want to read. So I got to pick it up. So I am prioritizing Ninth House and then Hellbent once it comes out, because I want to get a review of Hellbent up ASAP. That should be up next Friday by the time you're watching this. And then the last book I want to read is another pick from my fall 2022 list, and that was Luminaries by Susan Dennard. I am in fact so convinced I will love this that I have been trying not to buy a signed copy, because the cover is beautiful, and I am just so convinced that this is going to be like my first 5-star read of the year that I have to stop myself from buying the book every time I see it. So I'm excited to read it. And then I also have 2 books that I am reviewing on a freelance basis. One of them is for Readsy Discovery, and the other is for Online Book Club. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. However, once I read and review, I will be discussing them. Anyway, that is all from me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I apologize for being a bit more low energy than normal, because I am not feeling so fly like a G6 emotionally nor physically. If one of my coworkers gave me the flu, your mom's a hoe. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to find me anywhere else, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drink water and be nice to each other and exude kindness and empathy with everything that you do. It is a new year, so make it count. I'll see you guys in the next video.